Welcome to Morning Devotion with Ken Gurley. Devotions designed to inspire you on your daily walk with God. Here's your host, Ken Gurley.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Devotion. Hope all is well with you today. A big day in the lives of so many people, mourning the loss of yet another stalwart individual of faith, Pam Noel. Just thank God for her life and homegoing services today. Arthur Barnett here in Pearland tomorrow. Just a difficult season, but you and I make it better by gathering together and just saying, we're doing life together no matter what. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. I'm just happy you're here. Beverly, Sarah, Edith, God bless you. Thank you for being a part of this. Today, you're either going to love today's devotion, you're going to hate it. That's it. And just go ahead. Don't worry about my feelings. Let me know how you feel. Yeah, doublespeak. Yesterday's sin and today's reality. Apologize for coming on a little late this morning. Still having some technical difficulties. I hope this is punching through. A lot of Wi-Fi issues this morning, but hopefully we'll get through this. I'm just believing God for some good things. We did announce the Holy Land cruise. I'll mention it again in a second. Holy Land trip and Mediterranean cruise. Some of the information is in the topic in the introduction. So, and JamesL.Bailey was on yesterday, and he may identify himself. Connect with him. He can share with the information with you. Next fall, 6 days in the Holy Land, 7 or 8 night cruise on the Mediterranean. What a trip. Today's devotion began a long time for me. I read a lot of certain genre books early years, but I was triggered recently by a news story that some leftist politicians were appealing to the techno media giants to stop the printing, the distribution of any books that disagreed with their viewpoints. Just gave me pause. It reminded me of the old book burnings in the fascist era, like in the Nazis in the late 30s. It's called libericide. The destruction of books and libraries happened way back during the Caesars, happened during Mao Zedong's uprising in China. John Milton, yes, he of Paradise Lost fame, once said, "Who kills a man kills a reasonable creature, but he who destroys a book kills reason itself." Yes. It was in Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. A character says, a book is a loaded gun in the house next door, and who knows who might be the target of a well-read man. You see, we're seeing this in today's cancel culture. The shredding, the dissolution of ideas and thoughts that disagree with the norm. And it just gave rise to this devotion today, and I pray it finds a place in your heart. So, Holy Land information, fall of 2022, 13-day trip, 6 days in the Holy Land. Going to be followed. We'll be leaving Israel for a 7-day Mediterranean cruise, ending up in Barcelona, Spain. It's going to be amazing. Prices start at $2,700 per person. I don't know. Maybe my wife will put some information out to the side too. I just love all the First Church morning devotion families to be able to participate. Yes, you can bring your families. Can't bring your dog. I don't know. Maybe you can. I don't know. Bring your friends. But I do warn you what happens from experience. We have limited space, and once we start booking up that space, it gets harder and harder to hold on to it. So you can do a deposit with James, and he'll give you some contact information. Doublespeak. Yesterday's sin, today's reality. I don't know if you know it. We live in a strange world. This present darkness, this present chaotic, nihilistic, rudderless world. It was prophesied not only in the Bible, but by modern authors like Aldous Huxley in Brave New World. Ray Bradbury, as I've already mentioned before, in Fahrenheit 451. William Golding in The Lord of the Flies. How many of you remember reading that? Or Jack London in The Iron Heel. But so far, So far as we Americans are concerned, probably the two books that we're most familiar with on the subject is from the author George Orwell. We're familiar with Animal Farm, and we're familiar with 1984. It was exactly 12 months after American planes dropped the atomic bombs on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, ending the war in the Pacific. There was a small book published, a fable about farm animals called Animal Farm. Any of you read it? Come on, let's give it up if we have read. Don, come on, Don. Vicky, have you read any of these books? It was sort of required reading in schools. Described a pig named Napoleon, stood in for the true-to-life Joseph Stalin, and an eloquent rival named Snowball, who was like Leon Trotsky. And this fable had some memorable lines like, all animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. And there you have the premise of socialism. The masses held to a very low standard while a ruling class rises and adopts. No rules apply to them, and there's a great gulf fixed between. But the book that captured my generation's attention was not Animal Farm. It was his dystopic, prophetic book called 1984, and it described a totalitarian state in omnipresent government surveillance, media that was nothing more than propaganda, a perpetual war, historical revisionism, whatever the past didn't like, they just blotted out. Does this sound familiar? David, Dana, does this sound familiar? You may think you're not familiar with this book, but you are. And from that book, 1984, by George Orwell, we get the phrases like Big Brother. That's where it came from. Thought police, thought crime. We get the words like newspeak and doublethink, and from a fusion of the two, yes, the word doublespeak. Doublespeak. What does doublespeak mean? One of the chief tools of a repressive regime is the language used. Words are redefined to mean their polar opposite, and by redefinition, repulsive, objectionable things are made to be acceptable. So in the book 1984, the Ministry of Peace, well, that's actually the War Department. I like this. The Ministry of Plenty, well, they were in charge of rationing out the foods and goods and keeping the standard of living low. The Ministry of Truth, oh my, that was the propaganda arm of Big Brother, the media, the entertainment, the news, the educational sphere, the arts. They were part of the Ministry of Truth. Even historical records and archives in the Ministry of Truth were airbrushed, blotted out to conform to whatever the current genre. Does this sound familiar? Monica, does this sound familiar? There was even a Ministry of Love. Oh, isn't that great? That was Big Brother's oppressive thought police. If you disagreed with Big Brother, you were arrested, you were re-educated. That means tortured. Yeah. What Orwell saw was that tyrants used language to control people. And it was no accident that we see, it's no accident we see that in the rise in America of Marxism, taking root in our nation, we see doublespeak. Yeah. Someone who was for abortion years back ceased to be pro-abortion and they became pro-choice. That's doublespeak. With that sleight of hand, an act that ended an unborn life became a choice. Language has always been used to advance agenda. Oppressive regimes have coined phrases to suit their political purpose, but we're seeing this today. Yeah, and if they can do this, if they can force us into definitions, then they silence, they mute, they cancel. And that's what this is all about, folks. Martha, Barbara, this is what it's all about. I want to give you a few examples. Years ago, we were confronted with global warming. Then some of their science proved faulty, and so it changed to climate change. Thus, anything climate related can be used as a basis to advance a political agenda. For example, this year, Texas in February suffered a major freeze. If we'd still been talking about global warming, that would have been a problem to the narrative. But now, since it's climate change, well, the prognosticators came out in drove. Here's some of the headlines. Texas freeze shows climate change is here. How climate change is driving a deep freeze into Texas. Here's another one. How the warming Arctic helped drive a deep freeze into Texas. It just goes on and on. I'm old enough to remember when it was prophesied that we were headed globally into a new ice age. Then we went through the warming fears. Now we're going back to the ice age, which, by the way, is because of global warming. Why? Why? Because language serves a purpose. It controls the levers of power. Let me give you a few more examples of the doublespeak in our world so you know exactly what I'm talking about before I turn to the Word of God. Equality was the driver of the civil rights movement. People, do you remember this? People to be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. You would be excused to think that that still is important today, but it's not in many camps. Now it's not equality, it's equity. Equity says we don't want equal chances, equal opportunities. We want equal outcomes. In other words, opportunity and resources should be reallocated, redistributed. Yes, to make everything the same, equal outcomes. Do you think that's socialism in disguise? Of course it is. That's exactly what it is. But doublespeak will be used to accomplish agendas. Yesterday, the abortion rights people were saying, my body, my choice. But now with the COVID vaccine mandates, this is no longer the true. It's your body, my choice. I could go on and on with examples of doublespeak in our culture, but I won't. Doublespeak is a sin. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Doublespeak doesn't speak the truth. Ethnic cleansing may sound palatable, but it's really genocide. Negative patient outcome may sound innocuous, but it really means a fatality. Someone died. Enhanced interrogation may sound clinical, but it's really torture. Words mean something. Words have definition. Yeah, they do. And when words, by their very definition, are used to mislead, then we're being introduced to the wrong team. The one who is called a liar from the beginning, not the one who is called the truth. Why am I saying all this? Just for an opportunity to get canceled? Just for an opportunity to see a devotion repressed on social media? Oh, it happens. Yes, it does. I'm saying this because language becomes the vehicle of illusion and deception. Eve believed a lie. She believed that she would be as God, and the serpent's forked tongue brought a fork in the road, and she took the road most traveled today. You see, the enemy of our soul, Carol, Tammy, Kirk, the enemy of our soul is a wordsmith. He fashions words that fasten onto something within us.